Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we are joining the Rad 9 Challenge. Now, Rad 9 Challenge is from the Rad Pack. Good buddies Garrett, Justin, and Mel. They all put out some fantastic videos, and they put out this challenge about 9 movies that scared us. So these are 9 movies that scared us from any time in our life. So it could be from when you're a child all the way up to where you're an adult now. Like it could have been yesterday that you were really terrified out of your wits from a movie. But there are plenty of movies that scared the shit out of me growing up, and let me tell you what, here are 9 of them that's really just, kind of got under my skin every single time I watch these movies, or at least the first time I watch these movies. None of these movies really scared me now, per se, I would say, for the most part. We'll get to that in a second. But with that being said, what about you? Are you going to be joining in on this Rad 9 Challenge? What are 9 movies that scared you? Be sure to make a video response, or just let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to join in the conversation and tell me 9 movies and just maybe a little tidbit of why it scared you. Alright, so we're going to go all the way back to when I was around 3 or 4 years old, to a movie that I love and adore to this day, but it terrified me the first time I watched this movie, and a lot of people know that I love this movie, and I'm talking about Fantasia. So Fantasia is a wonderful Disney movie, right, with a bunch of musical numbers where classical pieces meet animation. But at the very end of this movie, there is the Night on Bald Mountain, which terrified the hell out of me when I was growing up. And obviously, as a 3 or 4 year old kid, I saw Chernobog and I said, I don't know what that is, but it scares the hell out of me, and I don't want anything to do with that at all. Get that away from me. I remember where I was in my house too. I was standing in my living room watching the TV, just standing there as a kid. Next to all my toys, I had like my Fisher Price castle, this thing right here. And I also had all my action figures like gargoyles and whatnot around that time period. This movie just came out and I just dashed into the kitchen and I got so scared. And I remember this movie to this day, but like this is now one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. And it all started with me being terrified of it. So yeah, Fantasia, this is the first movie that scared the hell out of me. Alright, so the next movie is actually a really wild memory of mine. And the reason I say this is because this is actually something I remembered from right around that 5 or 6 year old period of my life when I was that young. And I don't know why, but this movie had an image in it that stuck with me. And I could not for the life of me, for 23 years, did not know what this movie was, or didn't figure out what it was. I'm talking about House. There's a sequence in this movie that really terrified me, and it's near the end of the movie where our protagonist, who's been living in this really wild house, of course, if you've not seen it, definitely check this out, it's a fun time, but he runs into a woman who's got a veil on for like a wedding veil, and she turned into a monster. And that's the thing I remember growing up. I watched it when I was with my dad. He just had it randomly on a Saturday afternoon at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this movie was playing. And for some reason I was like, I'm intrigued by what's going on the screen, but at the same time didn't really know what was happening. All of a sudden, this guy's getting chased in this house by a reptilian bride, and I'm losing it. And so I remember at this point, I'm like, Dad, can we please turn this off, because this is really scaring me. And you know what? I didn't remember what this movie was. I blocked it from my memory, and I watched it for the first time again, more or less, and said, I've seen this movie before. Holy crap, I've been waiting 23 years just to figure out the mystery behind House and that scary bride with reptilian, gross face. Ugh. Alright, so next is a movie where I also have a pretty strong memory of hiding behind a couch. I was over at my neighbor's house, and it was a group of us. We were all watching this scary movie marathon, and I was, around maybe 8 or 9 years old probably, and I just did not want to be a part of it. Really, I wanted to be there to hang out with my friends, and just kind of be a social presence, right? And then all of a sudden, we decided to put in this movie, Darkness Falls. Now, I haven't seen this movie since that time period. I've seen clips from this to show certain parts of the movie. The part I'm going to be talking about is the very beginning of this movie. We put this in. I'm in, that living room where there's couches and whatnot. And then there's this little boy who, lost his tooth. And then he, wakes up, hears something, sees something out the corner of his eyes. He covers himself, and then from there, he looks up, and then it just dashes out of the room. He's terrified. He turned on the light. He wants to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, here I am just being like, oh my gosh, the tension. I'm edging near the couch, right? I'm edging near the couch. A lot of people are just kind of doing this. Some people are just like really fascinated because they love this stuff. And I'm terrified. He gets his mom. The kid gets his mom, and he's like, well, it went in there. It, like, in the living room is dark. It's like, it went in there, and that's where that thing is. Like, honey, there's no such thing as, like, whatever you're looking at. And then all of a sudden, she goes down the hallway, and then, yoink, she gets taken by some invisible thing. It happens to be the Tooth Fairy, which is what this movie's all about. The Tooth Fairy kills his mom, and he runs into the bathroom, hides. I'm terrified. By the time that happened, by the way, I didn't remember all those details. I was behind the couch at that point. I got really scared, jumped behind the couch, and just dashed. And all of a sudden, it just took me this long to pick it up on DVD, and it's got a really, used old copy. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I'm going to watch it this month and kind of just relive some scary moments of my life and keep the lights on, I guess. All right, so the next movie is actually a movie that I watched on TV with my dad once again when I was around 10-ish, probably. And I remember really loving this movie, but also being really scared of any time I went near sand. And that's because I'm talking about Tremors. Now, Tremors came out in the early 90s. Obviously, it's a legendary movie. I love it. This is a great 4K. Highly recommend. This is one of the best 4Ks out there. But regardless, when I was, around this time period, I was a kid and watched it with my dad. I'm like, this is a really cool action movie, but also really scary kind of science fiction horror of sorts, where I didn't want to be near anything ground that was loose at all for a long period of time because of the monsters in this, the graboids, right? These things just scare the hell out of me, and I don't know what to do when I, got around the surfaces. But I remember having the Tremors Attack Pack, and this was actually one of my most coveted DVDs because I just rewatched the first 4 movies, I guess, over and over and over again. There are those discs that have both, the sides where it's just the media itself, and it's not really good for carrying. You can't do that stuff, so it scratches really easily. So anyway, Tremors scared the hell out of me. Didn't want to go near any surface that had any kind of loose gravel, sand, etc. Scary movie. All right, so this next movie is one actually that was one of the earliest memories I have of being a little bit interested in horror a little bit, but at the same time being really terrified of what was going on. And that movie is Jeepers Creepers. Now, I don't have this movie. I need to get it sometime. I really do love the first 2, even though the maker is a piece of shit. But regardless, this movie scared me. And I remember I watched this, with my neighbor at the time. I was probably around 12 or 13 years old. And I remember watching this on daytime TV. And I remember it coming out, and it was during the police station scene where... Obviously, we're near the end of the film. The climax is here, and there's a standoff, and this creature is running through the police station. There is no power whatsoever, so there's just barely any light. It's really dark, and there's this tension over this entire scene. And they hear a sound, and then all the cops are in the main causeway, and they just look in that direction, shine their flashlights on it, and try to capture what was going on. And they couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden... yoink, somebody's heart gets ripped out as quick as possible, and I just remember that viscerally. I had dreams and, well, I had nightmares of that stuff. So Jeepers Creepers really terrified the hell out of me, especially when it comes to that moment. And then there was an additional moment at the end of the movie where you just see Justin Long's eyes and just his skin as you hear his screams near the end. What the hell? That scared the hell out of me. As a little teenager, Nathan, who didn't like horror movies, but at the same time, it weirdly got me into horror, and I'll explain in the next 2 movies that we're going to be talking about. All right, so next is a movie that I remember getting at the movie rental store because I think it had came out maybe 2 or 3 months prior, and my mom and I wanted to watch a horror movie. And I don't know what it is, but my mom and I watch some horror movies sometimes, but she is a little bit really bothered by horror movies, so I don't know why she does it. But regardless, we watched the movie The Descent. And if anyone has seen this movie, it's still scary as shit. This is probably, out of all the movies I'm going to be talking about, this is probably the one that still lives with me anytime I'm near caves. It's because of this movie. And I remember ordering pizza with my mom. I was sitting in the living room. My dogs were there with me. We were watching this movie, eating pizza. and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, these climbers, they got stuck as they were spelunking down into this cave, and they're trying to figure out what to do. It's like a drama, right, for the first like 30-40 minutes of the movie. And then all of a sudden these weird creatures start popping up and just, just jump scare, but also at the same time just terrify the crap out of these women. And it terrified the crap out of my mom and I don't know why we decided to. I think we took the disc out because I got so scared, and my mom didn't want to watch it anymore. But I think when later on during the day, I remember putting it back in and finishing the movie, and that's the reason why it's just stuck with me. It's one that I watched with my mom, and now I watch horror movies with her, so it's a lot of fun, and I really love this movie, and I want this movie to come out on a really special release from some boutique label. But anyway, this is one movie that still scares the hell out of me. All right, so next movie is the one that I always consider the movie that switched my brain around horror. It turned my mind off on the fact that I did not like the genre that much. I liked horror elements because obviously I like Jurassic Park. There are several movies I had mentioned probably previously in this that I still had a little bit of love for, but it wasn't a genre that I was seeking. And the movie I'm talking about actually is I Am Legend with Will Smith. This is a movie that is scary in parts. It's got some really good jump scares in it, but at the same time, it's also a scary concept. But it's not like that great of a movie. But I remember watching this in the cinema and covering my eyes and getting scared like I was when I was talking about Darkness Falls, right? Where I've just, kind of want to get behind things as much as I can. But weirdly, there was this emotional resonance, obviously, about a man and his dog being like the last survivors in, this apocalyptic world. And it kind of blended a little bit of a marriage, and it also had some little bit of a sci-fi concept in it as well. And I don't know, it just clicked in my mind. It's like, you know what? I think I'm starting to wanting to watch some of these movies. So that theater experience is really special to me, and I remember it very fondly. And being scared, but also very intrigued by what was going on. So thank you to I Am Legend for getting me into horror fully on board. All right, so next is a movie that if you are a fan of the channel, you know how much I love this one. It's The Witch. This movie I remember very fondly. I was going to the theater that was nearby my house. Actually, it had been built maybe a couple years prior for the first time. And I remember going to this place and being so enveloped in the atmosphere of the movie, the dialogue, the world that it was creating. It was something that was it was really gripping, and that was something that just really stuck with me. And I remember being there by myself in the theater and really taking that all in, kind of feeling the sink of myself into the chair, and really just kind of getting lost and, I guess the atmosphere of the movie. And this one scared the hell out of me, and that's why I'm talking about The Witch. It's in my heart, and I love the vibe of this movie. All right, and so the last movie we're going to talk about is another theater experience that really just made me grip the seat because of how terrified I was. I remember going to the theater with my roommate at the time, and we were terrified at a certain bear, and I'm talking about Annihilation's bear. So this movie has a great cast, a great story. Alex Garland directed the hell out of this. I love the book. Anywho, regardless, there's a bear in this movie. There's this affected area, and this team of scientists, biologists, there's all, psychiatrists, I believe. There was a whole group of different, explorers going into this area that got affected, and it was really it was just changing everything, the landscape of everything, the flora and the fauna. And speaking of the fauna, we have a bear that absorbs the creatures that it eats and forms a bond with. And it is terrifying. It is a terrifying concept, and it is a terrifying execution. The dread I sensed in the theater was unlike anything I have had. Like I just mentioned The Witch, the dread I was having from that, amplify it in a very specific sense. The whole movie feels uneasy, but this particular scene really scared me. I mean, my roommate at the time and I just looked at each other as we saw the bear approach these women, and it was just terrifying. And to be honest, all those movies terrified the hell out of me. They probably still, to this day, have some kind of etching of terrified aspect in my heart, my soul, and in my mind. But I want to know about you. What about some movies that really scared you? I want to say once again, thank you to the Rad Pack for putting this challenge out. This was a lot of fun. I hope a lot of people can join it and enjoy the commentary. Let me know what your favorite films are down below. The ones that scared the hell out of you when you were growing up. all the way up to this day. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.